for the brothers. You gotta love the mothers. And you gotta hug the ones who bring us joy and love. It's the middle with the moms and the sister day.
Molly is here today with me. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully it wasn't too far of a drive. But I'm so glad that you're finally here. And you were definitely one of the first people I thought about mainly because of your company. Wedding industry, and you're a mom. Yeah. But before, I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to let you get into it. But when I saw your post about what you had gone through, I had no idea. And no one talks about that. Like, I never hear any stories about anything talking about like hearing wise. Yeah. And I don't know if you watched The Bachelorette or Bachelor or anything like that.
To.
Yeah.
Back when I had time.
Right. I like stopped watching it, but like, I guess like breastfeeding with a newborn, like you're just sitting in bed all the time.
That was my Grey's Anatomy catch up.
Oh, 100%. So I just would like sit there and like binge watch Bachelor stuff. But on one of the seasons, this girl came on and she's deaf, and she, she has a hard time hearing people, and she reads people's lips, and she talks about it so much, and you learn so much. It's amazing. She's really helped bring that to the public because, everybody like loves Bachelor and stuff like that. So I'm just really excited for you to be able to share your story, and I'm sure there are going to be other people listening to this who will not feel alone now, or will feel inspired. But yeah, so Molly is the owner of Maggie Louise, and you started that how long ago? What year?
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
2012. I was 24. So
oh my gosh.
Don't do the math.
I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your first customer, was it Maggie?
Her name was, she was like one of my first.
Okay, one of the first.
Yeah, she was definitely one of my first. Did y'all go to school together?
Well, we did go to St. Agnes, but she's a little older than me, but we're like good friends. And I remember her posting about her dress, and she got it at your shop.
Definitely one of the first. She had to have come within the first few weeks of opening. So
yeah, and her name's Maggie. I know, that's so funny.
So yeah, it was really funny. And then so I've had a lot of Maggies, and then which has always been funny. And then because they're like, "Ooh, who's Maggie?" And I'm like, well, she doesn't exist. But then I found it funny recently. My actual first bride, her name was Molly.
Oh my gosh.
And then when we opened the new store last month, I had the first bride, which was just kind of luck of the draw because I have the wonderful girls that work with me that also see brides, and her name was Molly. So anyways, I was like, this is just kind of a God nod.
That's hilarious. So, talk about that. Talk about what made you want to start it, and even the name too.
Yeah, no, sure. I think I keep getting that question about the name, which is funny. I feel like I kind of went under the radar for a while on where that came from, but they were really just names that I liked. I didn't really want it to be about me. I think that, although who I am is very much infused into like the mission and, the story of how it came to life, and just like the nature of what it feels like there, I think. But, my team is really what makes it the difference. And I think that the mission there is not about the person, but really about the bride, you know? And so I wanted to kind of fly incognito under the radar in a sense, long term. So I gave her a name so that she could have a personality of sorts. Mm-hmm. And my name was Molly Lambert when I opened. Eric and I weren't married yet. Right. And so the ML was kind of a nod to me in a sense of just like, okay, well, there's kind of a piece of me. Right. But it's not about me. So,
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome.
It was fun. But so I've really enjoyed it. I think that there is a friendly connotation with the name. Makes people feel like, oh, I'm going to meet somebody who's nice and lively. But, then they just meet whoever they get. Yeah. So it's awesome.
It's huge. I swear every wedding we're like, is that a Maggie Louise dress? Every wedding. And especially if you see a really good dress. Yeah. But you've definitely, that store has made a name for itself, and I love the name. It's so dainty and like
it's
delicate.
Feminine but southern, and and that's definitely a piece of who I am, and I wanted it to tell a story in that way.
Yeah. So have you always just been interested in like fashion and stuff?
Not at all. No. That's also the other funny part of the story is I would not consider myself into fashion. I mean, like every girl, I like to look nice. But I kind of came about it because I worked in high school and college. My first job was with a local photographer.
Okay.
So I second shot weddings.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that. What?
So I second shot weddings and worked with her for over 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Before I started Maggie Louise. And so I went to college to be a photographer. I went to Memphis, was getting an art degree. And honestly, I was like, why am I, as with photo and video, you learn by doing.
Oh, yeah.
You can't really read a textbook of how
absolutely
to
not.
and become that.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is kind of silly.
Yeah.
And I wasn't necessarily like, I don't know, the art type, I guess.
Yeah, artsy-fartsy.
Yeah, and I love it. And I want to be, trust me. I
Yeah.
still like to pretend that I fit in there. But so about halfway through college, I changed my major to marketing business. I was like, I will develop my skills outside of school and then get the skills that I need to, actually run a business one day or, have a backup plan.
Right.
And I think the Lord just changed my heart. I started to really pray over, like, what is it about this that I love?
Right.
What is it that I don't love? Because then when I was training to become the lead photographer, it felt like a lot of pressure and it no longer felt fun for me.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, so I just got down and like wrestled with that. Around this time, all, friends started to get engaged and I was going to bridal appointments with them. And so all of that came full circle and I really started to realize I loved being the second shooter because I was mostly like the world's best bridesmaid.
Right.
Because bridesmaids, they only care about themselves. They're great. And they mean well, but you're nervous. I've been a bridesmaid. I'm nervous walking down the aisle. I want to look good. I want to do my part. Mm-hmm. But then some of the part that you drop in that process is being there for the bride.
Right.
And being mentally available to her.
Right.
There's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's a chaos day. And so as a second shooter, I had the lipstick in my pocket. I was fetching a water bottle, getting her a glass of wine. I was fixing her hair.
Yeah.
Bustling her because everyone forgets how to, and I loved that portion of it. So I was like, okay, noted.
Yeah.
And then from there, I would go to bridal experiences with my friends and I was like, this gives me the hives. I'm not a shopper. I don't like to shop.
Me neither,
I
honestly.
am I walk into a store and somebody's like, can I get you a dressing room? I'm like, no.
I know.
No,
I panic.
Please stop
I
looking
get
at me.
anxiety. I'm an online shopper.
Well,
if it doesn't
too,
fit, it doesn't fit.
Yeah. And so, but with wedding dresses, that is not an option.
You can't do that.
Like,
no.
yes, it exists, but it's just not the same.
No.
Wedding dresses do not translate to women's clothing.
Right.
And so I guess all of that came full circle and I was like, okay, this is an opportunity to not only fuel my passion and, but combine it with a purpose and, be this person for the bride and help make this experience sweet, memorable, and stress-free because I would sit there anxious for my friend.
Yeah.
Like there's a million brides in here. This is chaos. How do you ever choose one? And I started to daydream really like, okay, well, if me and Eric, seal the deal, like where would I go?
Right.
And I was clueless and I was like, okay, it really didn't exist around here. That's kind of how it came about. I was
awesome.
Young, naive enough to jump in and swim, and just felt like the Lord kind of just, that he shut the ones that I wasn't supposed to go through very clearly.
Right.
And that led me to here.
Yeah. That's amazing. I've heard a million different people's experiences at Maggie Louise and Wade and I, we didn't, that's my dress back there. I didn't get to have a legit dress or anything. That was a online purchase just to fit my bump in there.
It's perfect.
But we still hope one day that we get to have a vow renewal. I still want to be a bride. I know. So hopefully I get my experience.
Yes.
But now, of course, I'm pregnant again. So I'm like, oh my God,
here we go.
We're like, okay, we're going to do it next year. Then I get pregnant again. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the last baby, probably.
Yes. No.
Before I get too old.
No, but you won't be. I mean, even a 10-year renewal is like,
yes.
I guess we're 2 years away from 10 years. And I'm like, wow, that went really fast.
That's crazy. I remember when y'all got married.
Really
I remember your dress. I remember everything.
I do too.
Yeah.
I feel like it was yesterday in a sense, but then it's like when I really think of all the things we've done in those 8 years, I'm like, wow, okay, we have lived a lot of life.
A lot, definitely. Well, let's talk about.
Sorry, I cut you off about.
No, you were fine.
So.
We can totally get into that, but I do want you to talk about what y'all have done personally. I know you're a mommy and you have 3 babies. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, I'd love to. Yes, so mom, full-time job for sure. So got 2 of those. I have Olivia, she's 5. She's in kindergarten. And then we have Henry, who's 3, and James is 2.
Okay.
So those 2 are pretty close together. Liv and Henry are 24 months apart, and then James and Henry are 15 months apart.
Oh, my Lord, 15. Wow, yes. I thought 18 was close. 15 is close.
I didn't see it at the time, but yeah, I look back in pictures, and I'm like, I have pictures of like Henry and James right there together, and then Liv, and I'm like, I had 3 babies.
Yeah, they were babies.
3 babies.
Yeah, you don't think about it.
No, but 3 in 3 years in this sense, it's like I don't know. I have so much more grace for myself in hindsight because I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, you run your own business. You're having 3 babies in 3 years. Yeah. Oh, that's a lot.
It was wild. I couldn't see it at the time. It just felt like, okay, well, this is just what you do.
Right. So. But the good thing about you and your business is you had amazing help.
Amazing help. I think that was the one thing when I was driving here. I was like, no matter what Camilla, asked me, I hope that people hear the loudest from me is that I have a lot of help.
Yes.
I had amazing women at the store alongside Eric. I had Carolyn, who's been with us for, I think, going on 7 years. She came in right before I had Olivia, I guess I don't know if I was pregnant. I may have just found out I was pregnant when she started. I can't remember. But so I trained her up right before. I didn't really have to. She just has the natural gift. But before I left with Olivia, and then we hired Eric's sister somewhere after that.
Okay, I didn't know that was his sister.
Yeah, Ashley is his sister. So they've been with me. We've now grown. We have 2 more. Another girl, Ellie, came in right before I had James. Bless her heart, like a month before I had James. And then, but yes, and then we have full-time nanny who has been an answered prayer. And then we have parents.
Oh,
we have a lot of help.
That's amazing. That is like key to everything.
Yes.
Because with my business, when I first got pregnant with Chessa, I just, like, for other personal reasons too, I was like so focused, like, okay, I have to make my money, like, to live.
Yeah.
And I like put like my brides before myself, which you can do with help too. But I had 2 second shooters help me, but I just like did way too much. Yeah. And then I thought I learned my lesson. And then with Raylan, like, I still did too much. Yeah. And with this third, I've learned my lesson. Yes. I've definitely learned I'm doing like way less than I usually do next year, which makes me a little sad, but like I just have to.
You have to.
For myself.
Yeah. You have to take care of yourself. Yeah. And I think that, people always say the word balance or whatever. And I don't know that really exists. I think that the best thing I heard from a mom once was that it's kind of like a seesaw and it never actually feels equally yoked.
Right.
There's going to be some days where work has the most of you or where your home life has the most of you, but just knowing that it ebbs and flows. And like our business is seasonal in a sense. We do feel heavier loads at times. Yeah. And cyclical. It's not wildly cyclical, but there are seasons where it just feels longer and harder. Yeah. Hello, winter depression. But also busy season for us.
Yes.
But I think that I have to remind myself on the days where I'm like, okay, I had a really good day at work, but I fell short, as a mom, or, I'm going to bed with loads of mom guilt or whatever. I'm like, but, I have tomorrow, and tomorrow's a new day, and it will look differently. Yeah. So it's just it's a tandem. It swings both ways.
Yeah. It's hard. And I feel like when I think I have figured it out, like the next day is like bring something else.
Oh, no.
And so I'm I'm definitely blessed to have amazing brides who like support me and who are patient, because, I do photography too, but wedding video, like editing video is like
beast.
And personally to me is way harder than photos. So just the fact that I have like patient brides, like, thank y'all, because like I know I put like a timeline of it like in my contract, which saves me at times, because some days I'm like, oh my gosh, I can get this done in a month, but then like let's say the kids get really sick for like 2 weeks, I'm like, well, that's not happening. But So
shout out to the husbands who deal with this and all of it.
I know. Oh my Lord, have mercy. I know.
And love us through all of it.
I know. That's important. Our support systems and our help. And I've actually tried, I don't know if you saw, I tried legit hiring someone because I didn't want to like totally cut everything next year. But, the interviews I had didn't go so well.
Oh, no.
And a lot of the people didn't even live here. And I was like, I need you to
really
live here.
Yeah.
So I still have one of my second shooters, Shelby, that I'm so thankful for, but still haven't found that person to join.
And I think it's wait for it. You know, the people that I've been given, it's kind of like the craziest stories on how they landed in Maggie Louise. And it's pretty undeniable. So, even Ellie, Alden, which is our most recent hire, she was a bride that had come. She'd come with her sister and that sort of thing. And it felt right. And, it was kind of organic. And I was like, I don't really have a position for you, but if you can hang on, I'm sure there's a place. And then, the Lord just opened that door. And then Ellie, before that, I had interviewed, I think we had like over 20 something people apply for her position. And we had the deadline for submissions. And then she submitted hers like 2 days later. And she was like, hey, if I'm moving to Memphis, I'm engaged. And my friend told me about this. I realized I've missed the deadline, but I wanted to submit either way. And I wrote her back and I just said, thank you for your interest. To honor the people that did submit in time, we're going to go through the interview process with them. And then went through that, and it was a big heck no. Like it was same as what happened with you. And it just was clear that, okay, well, I can't force this. And like I said, I was pregnant with James, and we were at a point where we needed somebody.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what am I going to do? Like, are you just, Lord, are you just telling us to wait? Like, are you telling me to give up? And then I had a friend that was talking me through it, and she was like, I think you should, she was like, I don't know, I've been praying over this for you, and I really think you should just go back through your inbox and sort through all the applications again.
Wow.
Why are you doing this to me? And so I did that and saw Ellie's application, and I was like, oh yeah, totally forgot about that one. So we set up an interview. I did it over, what do you call it?
Zoom or something?
Yeah, something like that, whatever. Obviously, I don't work on my computer much. I work with people, not technology. That's why your rainbow board really fascinates me. But long story short, she was the perfect match. So, and then Eric's sister came sort of accidentally. We were hiring, and she was like, she's a lawyer. I mean, she was like top lawyer in Nashville, Tennessee at the time.
Wow.
And, very, doing amazing. And she was like, I want the job. And I was like, you're joking, move on. Yeah. And then she was like, no, seriously, I want the job. And I was like, I can't hire you. Like, first of all, you're our sister. Like, that just sounds messy. Yeah. Second of all, like, you're overqualified in a sense. Like, you have a law degree. Like, shouldn't you be doing that? You worked 10 years to get there, and anyways, she was a perfect fit. And then Carolyn was, she had come on. So Eric would say, you have to hire somebody, Molly, you're carrying this load by yourself. Cause it was just me for 3 years. And then Eric came, and him coming was a funny story too. But
I remember
I'm going
picture
backwards.
you posted of him.
I mean, he, like in his shorts and tees. He had to get with the program on the uniform. But yeah, I kept saying, I don't know who it is, Eric, but to me it's a Carolyn, because Carolyn was married to one of Eric's good friends from high school. Okay. And I was like, it's a Carolyn. She's the it that I want. So I'm praying for that. Right. And then lo and behold, John mentioned it to Eric one day. I guess we were hanging out at their house. He was like, I think you should really mention the idea of Maggie Louise to Carolyn. And I was like, what? And he had told Eric that, she had kind of mentioned she would like to do something like that and kind of come out of the big corporate retail world. And anyways, there we are. Yay. So it's wild. It'll come.
I know.
The right person will come.
I know. I was like really excited when I posted it, and I got like so many people contacting me.
It feels vulnerable to post something.
I know. I was a little nervous because I don't know. It made me feel like, probably just because of myself, it made me feel like I wasn't good enough, so I needed like help or something. But I had to get over that. I was like, I need help because I have children.
I think it's a gift to need help.
Yes.
That you're, successful, and there's a need there.
Yeah. And I didn't want to like, because, my daughter's in school now 5 days a week. Next year, my son will be. And then the year after that, this baby will be. So then I'm going to be able to edit more and do more. So I didn't want to like lose all that. So that's why I wanted to post that and see what came of it. But nothing did, but it's okay. I'm not freaking out. I'm fine.
It's not over.
We'll figure it out, but I'm so glad.
You've got like 8 months to have this.
Right. So. Lord. But I'm glad that you have all the help, because you've had 3 kids and a lot of things going on, and you didn't have to carry the entire burden of like Maggie Louise on you and all the brides, because brides are like, you know exactly how I feel. You and me and you're the same way. Like, we want it to be all about them and like to focus on them. Like, I make every video or pick like photography, I make it about the couple. I don't just like go and do it and then that's it and then make a crappy video. Like I like make their story. Like I'm very serious about them. Experience, just like Maggie Louise does for their brides. So it's hard when you have your kids and then you have your brides and like trying to do them at the exact same time. Oh, it's too hard. So someone told me actually on the podcast that there's no such thing as balance. When you are with your kids, give your 100% of yourself to your kids. And then when you're editing for your brides, give your all to them. So that's what I've been doing. And so I have been not getting my stuff out as fast as I'd like, but I'm like, okay, just relax because you're a mom. These brides can wait a little bit. But anyway, I'm glad you have your help. And let's kind of get into your other story. So I saw you post about it. I was very inspired by it, and I had no idea about anything. So I would just love for you to share your story on here.
Well, that's what I tell people too, is like, well, I had no idea either. As far as like my hearing loss, it was, I'd had James, I guess he was, when did that happen? Hold on, let me get my, life's a blur. 3 children. I'm like, what year is it? How old am I? I think I told somebody the other day, I was like, I'm 32. And I'm like, I'm lying to you. I'm not. I'm actually 2 years older than that. I don't even know what today is.
I know.
But forever young. But so it was in May of 21. Yes, May of 21.
Okay.
So James was, I guess, almost a year old, but in perspective of like childbearing and all that was going on in my life. And something called like tinnitus set in really heavily. And so that's a ringing in your ears. It kind of sounds like sirens are blasting in your brain. And it was very sudden onset for me as far as realizing it. I think going back, I kind of, what set me off was realizing it was at one point, Eric and Olivia were sitting on the couch and they both looked at me like really like just like frustrated. And they were like, turn it off, Mom, turn it off. And I was like, what? Well, my alarm was going off on my phone and I couldn't hear it. So like the ringing in my ear was such a like certain, like, I guess, like tone.
So it was constant. It wasn't just like
one. Constant. Wow. No, it's constant. And so, so I couldn't even hear like my alarms and that sort of thing. And I started to realize like, oh wow, there's this really loud ringing in my ear that is making me unable to hear these certain tones. And so, it got really hard and it got pretty dark for a few weeks. You know, it was just very sudden. I started to realize that I couldn't hear anything else except the ringing. And so at work, our acoustics at our old store were not great in the sense of they were completely open ceilings, concrete floors.
Right.
And so hearing became very troublesome. I would come home from work and during those few weeks before I went to the doctor, very just sad and frustrated. And I would look at Eric at 5 p.m. and be like, I just have to go sit in the bathtub or something. And so I would retreat upstairs or like 7:30 would turn around and I would just be like, I'm just going to go to bed. Like, and that's not who I was as a mom. And so I would just be in tears of frustration. And long story short, I went to an ENT. Back it up. My OB has been an angel from day one. I was with him. I found him during my pregnancy with Liv because my long-term doctor had moved, and her last day was my first day of pregnancy, appointment with Liv. And she cried and I cried, and because we had been trying to get pregnant with her. And so, anyways, found him, and he was an angel throughout the whole process. And I just, he's my doctor. You write out who's your general physician on anything. I'm like, my OB. I don't know. So I started to panic and I reached out to him because I had just gotten an IUD put in the week prior to my tinnitus setting off.
Okay.
So that was kind of one of the only things that I could like maybe pinpoint
Right.
could have caused it. I didn't know what caused it. It didn't lessen. And he was like, well, let's just take it out. He was like, you know yourself and you know your body. Even if it's not that, you may always worry that it's that. Let's just take it out.
Right.
And let's get you set up with a neurologist, because I started having migraines after James as well. And then he also set me up with an ENT. So I kind of panicked. I was like, okay, migraines. I now have this sirens in my ears. Like, okay, as you know, you start thinking the worst of the worst.
Oh, 100%.
And so I was like, oh gosh, well, and also because post James, I'd had a situation where I had my spinal went bad, and so I had spinal leaking or fluid leaking post having James, and I had to be readmitted to the hospital, and it was just a whole ordeal. And so my headaches never stopped after that. And so I was like, is this all tied together? Yeah. I was like, this is a medical mystery. Well, it really wasn't, because I went to the ENT, and I was there and I was nervous, but that was my first stop. They got me in sooner than the neurologist. This angel walks in who was a Maggie Louise bride, and it was like, hey, I'm the audiologist. I'm going to do your hearing test. And I was like, okay. And so Haley was awesome. And I think that was just a sweet gift from God. She was the most,
yes. Don't you love that?
Her personality is just so peaceful. And so we go and we do that. And I'm just determined that my hearing is great.
Right.
I'm like, I just need to get this checked off the list and move on to the neurologist and all the things. And we come back and she sits me down and she's like, you have moderate to severe hearing loss. And I was like,
what?
Okay. And I was like, I'm sorry, I need a minute. And I just broke down and like, I just cried, and I cried the whole way home. I just was wrestling with this. Like, she couldn't have been, maybe she messed it up, this can't be right. And I was like, I don't really know what to do. And so she was like, well, you're going to meet with me at our office, or my business partner. And, we're going to talk through hearing loss and getting fitted for hearing aids. Well, the way they kind of explained it in a simple form for me was that in the absence of sound, your brain can sometimes like create a sound. And so this loud ringing was happening because my brain had been, I guess my whole life almost, we're not really sure.
Right.
It could have been something I've lived with nearly my whole life, or it could be something that has happened across time, but it wasn't sudden.
Okay.
Even though for me it felt like it was.
Right.
But really, I kind of like to explain it. I assume that my brain, or she kind of explained it, like my brain was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't compensate for your hearing loss anymore. Tinnitus sets in, and it's just like an alarm, like my brain telling me like, hey, something's wrong. Yeah. We've got to fix it. Right. And so it's quite interesting. It's been a crazy journey. I think on the way home, I wrestled with, I don't know, there's been so much beauty in it, but also, I'm going to cry talking about it, but those raw feelings at first of like, this is going to be quite embarrassing. Like, it's a disability in a sense. And it's like, this could be embarrassing, or it could hold me back. I didn't want to feel handicapped by this, and I didn't know what to expect. I'd never had hearing aids. I had just assumed it's going to be bothersome. It's going to be cumbersome. It's going to be another thing that I have to do. Right. Another thing that, is going to try to slow me down in this busy life of mine. And, it's been everything but that. One of the things I really latched on quickly and was excited about was to teach my children about that everyone's different. Yeah. And that stepping into those disabilities, or whatever you see someone that is different from you, step into that moment and ask them about it, versus going within yourself to be like, oh, well, that's awkward. She has hearing aids. Like, oh my gosh, no, tell me about that. And being curious, just endlessly curious about people and what makes them different and how uniquely God's made them. So I was like, this is an opportunity to teach my children that devices don't make anyone different. Right. If you see a child with any type of different device than you have, or that processes things differently, speaks differently than you, embrace it and normalize it. Right. If anything, like celebrate it, because it's, who they are. Yeah. That's been cool. So I've seen the beauty of it. For sure, play out my life. But yeah, so I've got hearing aids. I guess it was like in June or July. It took about a month, I guess, and then got them last June or July. So I've spent a full year and a half with them.
Okay.
You know, I still have tinnitus that doesn't really take care of it, but it does amplify the other sounds for me so that it's kind of the last thing I hear now.
Okay,
Does that make sense? Like if I think about it, I can hear it.
Right.
On like very stressful days or hard days, it gets worse.
Right.
It kind of ebbs and flows. So
Right.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
But I kind of explained it to a couple of people that if you imagine like talking into Tupperware, like if you just grab like a Tupperware,
Right.
and you talked into it, that's kind of what my normal hearing is like.
Oh,
or like you have a
wow.
fishbowl in your head.
Yeah.
I had no clue.
And you never noticed.
No clue. But what's funny is working during COVID, which was really difficult because you're trying to, we had to close, of course, but
Yeah.
the mask.
Oh, I was going to say.
I'm not a rebellious person. I'm an Enneagram 6, but I fall on the non-rebellious side of all of that. And I like to do what I'm told. I like to know what to do, that kind of thing. And so I'm kind of let's follow the textbook. Well, my spirit was so rebellious against mask. But I wanted people to be comfortable. I wanted to legally do the right thing, whatever. And it was so freeing when I realized that that's where my frustration had been for a whole year. Mm-hmm. And people would be in my store and they'd be trying to talk to me with a mask on. And I would leave the appointments and I would take off my mask. I'd throw it and I'd be like, I'm done with this. And I think everyone has experienced the frustrations with the mask, but I didn't realize how much I relied on lips.
Yeah.
Lip reading to partner with, I guess, what was my hearing loss that I didn't know about. And so I've realized I do read lips a lot. It's crazy. And that really was helpful for me. I mean, like, okay, wow. I did feel this sense of almost like bodily relief and like the stress that was taken off me the first few months that I got my hearing aids.
Thank goodness.
It was interesting.
Thank goodness.
I'm still pretty round type, let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, wow. I didn't know like if you had known for a long time or so that was
clue.
like.
Well, it's funny. So my stepmom, my whole life, jokingly, but also very seriously, called me Helen Keller. And so I know that's not like politically correct or it was within the own walls of our house, but literally that was my nickname growing up. And so.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not. So she was like, I feel terrible.
I'm so sorry.
I know. And then my real mom, she too, of course, as any mom, you wear that of like, I wish I would have known. I wish I could have whatever. But interestingly enough is that my dad has hearing loss.
Oh.
His didn't really set in until more appropriate, I guess, what we say like socially to get hearing aids. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why it's like, oh, wow, you're in your 30s and you have hearing aids. But when you're in 50s and 60s and you have hearing aids, it's like, oh, you're just old. Yeah. And so that was another like thing I didn't want to be associated with. I had to wrestle with that. My vanity had to wrestle with that. Yeah. But for a minute and just to be vulnerable. But anyways, my doctor, she was like, I'd be curious to see your dad's chart.
Okay.
Well, and so they map your hearing loss like when they're doing the test. Okay. And so you can kind of see if you fall above the line of like normal hearing or like moderate hearing loss or severe hearing loss. And so my slope of I can hear deep tones, like bass tones pretty well. But high tones, my slope, it just drops into the moderate to severe loss. And so I can tell you a little bit more about that. But my dad's slope is the exact same.
Wow.
It's really interesting. So that's kind of something that really told us like this is hereditary. Okay. And this is something that I've likely had for a really long time. Okay. There's all these things. I don't understand it. It's mind blowing. Yeah. And I'm like, that's why you do what you do and I do what I do. Right. But she kind of also explained that because I hear deep tones, I can hear the beginning and the end of words. So I've likely been able to live with, for example, like stop. The ST and the P are deeper sounds than vowels are. And so because I can hear the other letters outside of vowels, you how you see those things where it's like you remove all the vowels and you can still read it? Yes. Okay. So my brain could do that with hearing, basically. Okay. And so I could put words together. And so I guess for as long as I've had hearing loss, however that may be, my brain's just been working to piece it all together and like saying, oh, who needs vowels? So it's really crazy. But yeah, and then as a mom, back to my mom, she of course was sad about it and she expressed that. And I was like, Mom, I didn't know. I'm the one that hasn't. I didn't know. Like you can't, you can't, you know, be sad. But I think that I was like, I understand that as a mom.
Of course, I would 100% feel the same way.
I understand it, but I didn't realize what I was missing until you don't know until you know. No. And so now I know what I was missing.
Exactly.
One of my favorite, or Eric always likes to tell the story, but I didn't know that tambourines made the sound that they make. So
oh my gosh.
It's such a high pitched like sound that I thought people just like, and I felt a tambourine, so I felt the vibration of it.
Right.
And I thought people just like used it to like stay on beat. I don't know how that makes sense, but like we went to, after I had Henry, very, very soon after I had Henry, we went to a Leon Bridges concert.
Ooh.
And he always has a tambourine on him. So like you can like, and it was fabulous. But I'll never forget that like I didn't realize until I listened to him later that you can hear that thing.
Wow. So you like can hear music differently now.
Oh, it's so fun. It is
wow.
so, and I had a really like deep love for music before even, but the experience that it is now is incredible.
That would be
and
so
I'm a
emotional.
huge Coldplay fan.
Okay.
And what's really cool is that on there, and I've been to their concert. In fact, I went to their concert with Carolyn in 2016. And our husbands just let us go so we could have even better seats. And so I even posted, I was like, okay, bucket list, check. The only thing left is to have a baby. And I didn't know, but I was pregnant with Liv.
Shut up.
So, but long story short, they now on their newest tour, they have vests that people with hearing loss can put on that makes them feel their music. And I'm like, when I thought I couldn't love them more, they're now adapting their shows for hearing loss. So I'm like, I need in on that.
What made them want to do that?
Whoever Chris Martin is dating, I'm not really into like all that, but I don't know if she's like an advocate for hearing loss or something, but she opened his eyes to this. Yeah,
that's huge.
This world,
especially their music. It's so just like
you feel it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so music has been really cool. I don't know what it is. I was telling Eric, but I've realized that you can hear it out of different speakers, like.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
yes. Okay.
So I didn't know that. Like the depth of like, I can turn on, there's a certain Coldplay song and it like starts in one speaker and then it comes in the other. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
It does that in your car too.
Yes, it does. I don't even know how that works, but I'm like, this is incredible. So, but my favorite thing about my hearing aids also is that they're Bluetooth. So I can walk around listening to music and you can't hear it at all.
Okay.
Like I can turn my hearing off. Okay. So basically I have like noise canceling headphones in at all times.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So I can have a concert.
Heck yes.
But it's fun. And so I really like that. I walk around on the phone and people don't know, which is
that's
annoying
so funny
to other people. But I'm like, sorry.
That happens a lot. I'm like, they're talking. I'm like, what? Oh, they're not talking.
Yeah. So I have basically the earbuds that people walk around with now. So
that's so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, back to Helen Keller. So when I was I have done a lot of book reports on her. Like I think I chose her every year.
I started to have like affection towards her because I was being
really like
I did a book report about her too. Yes.
Okay. I literally chose her like every year for some reason.
Yes.
And
it's pretty fascinating.
Home, I know.
If you think about it.
And blind. But on my way home, I was like thinking of things to ask you, and I just kept thinking about Helen Keller. So when you said that, I was like, oh God.
Maybe it's not completely inappropriate.
I was like, I was going to say something, but I was like, I'm not going to say anything about Helen Keller. And then you said
no. I mean, no, you got to laugh about it. But I was like, this is funny. But I think that it is, in hindsight, Eric wasn't surprised, I don't think, that I had hearing loss. Yeah. I think a lot of people that really know me well weren't super surprised. I could really tone people out, of course. But they thought that that's just simply what I was doing. Yeah. But I didn't realize like how anxious or like heavy like social settings felt for me and how I would just kind of like emotionally retreat. Yeah. But I think it was just like my brain and my body got tired of striving to keep up with conversation because when you're in a loud room of a party and that sort of thing, it's just So
you might have like even felt some like social anxiety too.
Yeah, no, I did. Well, and I would often leave and be like, I think I dropped the ball in connecting with people, and I think that was always like something I felt. So then I would be hesitant to want to do that again because I'd be like, oh gosh, I'm just going to be disappointing, of like connecting and like making fun and engaging conversation, that sort of thing. So.
Right. Well, do you know, I mean, maybe not, but do you think that your pregnancy or like the deliveries you had, like, with all your hormones and your body changing, like made your body tell you something's wrong? Because it happened during that, right?
So, well, James had been there for about a year. So that's why I did fear that, because of all that I had like kind of gone through postpartum with him. But I don't think so necessarily. There's a piece of it that I don't know. I got vaccinated. And so whenever you, and I'm not like going to go into the yay or nay vax type of thing. We won't go there. But I did. And just for work purposes and helping, like, I wanted everyone to feel comfortable. So I got the first vaccine and the IUD all in 1 week.
Oh, wow.
And so the doctor kind of explained it is that any type of, foreign substances coming into your body's going to react. And so I think I will also say, and I'm very passionate about saying that the vaccine did not cause my hearing loss. No. I don't think that.
Right.
I do not think that the vaccine caused my tinnitus. I think that that my body experienced caused my brain to set off an alarm.
Yeah.
We'll never really know. And I was like, I can't get caught up in it. If anything, I just have to kind of look back and be like, I'm grateful.
Yeah, honestly.
And I just celebrate it in that sense of like, it's probably inevitable. And it's like, well, let's just get this wrestle out of the way and get this fixed and move on with my life. So I didn't go back to the IUD. I was like, I'm not going to worry about that. I didn't get the second vaccine, just in a sense of like, I'm just going to preserve everything what it is right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that definitely, those types of things, even though pregnancy I don't think ignited anything, I think that those things did. And I think that's still a valid like correlation of like
100%.
Your body is reacting, and it's like, I don't know what to do with all of this. This is all new information to me, but hey, I'm also dealing with this. Let's talk about it. So, I think that like my brain just was like, okay, I'm tired. This is a lot going on, and let's fix it.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Did you hear when you got your hearing aids? Could you hear your children differently?
Absolutely.
Oh, I bet that was so
emotional. So the next morning, one of the first things I saw was I went to get James out of his bed, and at that point in life, he was the first one to rise, typically, and I was holding him. I'd go downstairs and like make his milk. I could like hear his little breath on my shoulder, his little head on my shoulder. And I had never experienced that. And it was crazy.
I cried.
I know. It's just that little like, that they make like, and cause they're little stuffy noses and all that. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And I like pulled back and I looked at him and I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And then I also think it's funny. I can't hear Henry very well without my hearing aids in. And he's 3, so he has a high-pitched voice still. But what's really sweet in hindsight, this one also makes me kind of cry, is, and when I was on Instagram, when Liv was younger, I got off for a while, but one of the things that people would love when I would post videos of her, because she had a super raspy voice. Really deep, raspy voice. She's grown out of it a little bit, but she still is not. She was never the high pitch. And I think it's really, really sweet. And I think God's goodness and his grace is that I could hear her voice. Yeah. And so she would tell me what Henry was saying before I had hearing aids. I didn't know, but she would tell me, Mom, he's saying this, but I could always hear her. Yeah. And I was like, that was really cool to look back and see that gift of her little raspy voice and how I could always understand her. And I didn't know, that I couldn't,
That was a huge gift.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was cool. But hearing my kids in a different way is great. I can hear, and then also I didn't realize like how frustrated I would get. Like when I still have loads of anxiety when they get upset and start screaming.
Yeah.
And like
they're all doing it at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
And then like
sometimes I just have to excuse myself to go outside.
Me too.
I'm like, I have to go outside before I yell too, because it doesn't fix anything.
No, never.
It makes it worse. But I still do it. So, but yeah, I didn't realize like, it just would feel chaos in my head. And now it's like, I can sort through it a little bit better.
Yeah.
But that was a game changer.
Yeah. That's so emotional. Every time I see any video, it just gets me, of someone hearing for the first time, especially a child, honestly.
And those are wild. Like to go from hearing nothing, I just can't imagine. So I had small experiences like the tambourine. And I didn't know that like you could hear like individual leaves on trees. We live in a very wooded like neighborhood, and I could hear like, I don't know how to explain it, but I could hear like the of like a tree, but not the of like all the leaves. You know what I mean? And that they like individually like rustled. I heard like one whole Russell.
That's insane.
Kind of wild.
Are you like journaling all this
No,
stuff?
I
You
should.
should.
I know.
Like we have no time to do anything. I just bought a journal. And
This is my
super
journal
cute.
right here.
There
Just
you go.
send me
I'll
this.
just send you the link. But I just bought one because I have so many things I want to like write down so that the kids can read one day. Of course, because like I'm severe anxiety person now. And I'm like, well, what if I'm not here and they don't remember these things? So I'm like, I want to write everything down. I've only written down one thing.
And it's like, in case they
I don't have
forget the
time.
good things,
I
I only
know.
remember how
Yeah.
crazy I was.
I know. I'm like, okay. And I want them to like learn, lessons from my mistakes
And your
or stuff like that.
vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like when they're walking through it.
Yeah.
I think that's really
Yeah.
important. And that will be a gift that you can give them for sure.
But that's so special. Just the different sounds that
It's
you're
cool.
hearing.
It's been really cool.
My husband, he was practically not blind, but he has the worst vision like ever. And he didn't know it growing up. He would sit this close to a TV. His parents didn't think anything about it. Yeah. And when he was older, and he said, he was like, that's what trees look like. Yeah. And when he said it to me, I started crying. He's like, why are you crying? I was like, that is really sad. You'd never seen leaves.
I've
like
heard
on
of people that like didn't know that grass was blades.
Yeah.
And just like they saw it as like almost like turf.
Yes. Yeah. And it's just amazing. Thank goodness for
my
modern
husband's
day.
blind too, which is funny. So like when we're old, we're going to really be a pair. I mean,
y'all gonna be hilarious. What?
I guess he'll be the eyes and, I'll be his eyes and he'll be my ears. So
that's so cute.
It'll be interesting.
I'll tell you one thing. Wade is a musician and that's another thing. I think wedding receptions has ruined my hearing as well. So I bought those little earplugs and I put them in every time because it's hard. I can't hear anything. I'm like, what?
I know.
It's so bad. And they're so loud sometimes.
It is so loud. And then you're trying to be up there by the band so that you can get the people. And
I know.
I understand that. I know we considered that too because even my parents asked at one point of is it because you listen to music too loud or blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't know. I think it was inevitable that I would lose my hearing. Yeah. But there's no telling if something expedited it or not. But I'm really big. I tell Eric all the time, I don't want my kids using headphones. They're not at an age where they can know what's right or and I know there's some I think where you can control the volume, but
I don't even care.
For now, I'm like, we just don't even use them.
I'm so serious about it. And I got to just say this. If you bring your baby to a wedding, please put headphones on the baby or don't put the baby right next to the speaker because first of all, they're way overstimulated, but it is just so bad for them. Last weekend, this girl brought her precious little newborn and the music was way too loud anyway, but they were dancing with him right near the speaker and it hurt me, my ears, but I couldn't even video her. I couldn't even look because it upset me because I was like, that baby is going to not be able to hear now.
Yeah, no, not for
so
today.
So put headphones on your babies and your kids at weddings.
Yeah, no, it is important. And I mean, because there's a lot of people that have hearing loss just from gunshots or heavy machinery or whatever. And that was a whole new world when I started reading kind of about it. Of course I went down the rabbit hole of how did this happen? Why and all of that. But it's been crazy. It's really cool how many brides I've seen since, or even just in the period of finding out about my loss and having them. I've had so many brides that are audiologists or in audiology school and
that's amazing.
Or in speech therapy. I've got so many brides that really go into those types of occupations, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool to talk to you about this. So
when I went in to give birth to Chessa, I saw my bride. She was one of the first people I saw. It's so comforting. And she was the nurse, the labor and delivery nurse that helped deliver Chessa.
Oh, yeah.
And she was a bride. And some people probably think that's weird, but I was like, oh, thank God I know somebody.
I had, when I had Liv, I had a pretty traumatic postpartum experience. And when I had Henry, or when I was gearing up to give birth to Henry, I was super anxious. But I had a precious bride, Cammie, who worked at Methodist in labor and delivery. And we just started praying that she would be there when I went into and so then it fast forward and she was on the schedule for my induction or my C-section with him. Yeah. And so she would she sent me pictures the day before of we didn't find out the gender of Henry, only Henry.
I'm not going to do that either. I'm excited.
Oh, okay. Well, we can come back to that. That's great.
Yay.
Did you know your other two?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a boy and a girl. So I'm like, this is my chance.
Yeah. I didn't know with Henry, which is wild. I knew with Olivia and James. But so she had the bow hat and the regular hat, and she was just so excited. And then her and a couple other that I had another bride that came in and they just like prayed over me that morning when we came in, and it was just so sweet.
Another bride?
Mm-hmm. And then since then I've had people that were there and present come and get their dresses. So it's been so cool.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
I'm telling you, wedding industry is a small world, and especially Memphis, but
you just meet the most fabulous women of all walks of life. And, and it's so sweet to see the journey start to overlap. But yeah, so my brides were the biggest gift to me in both my delivery with Henry and with James. Yeah. They knew that I'd had a bad experience with Liv, and like, so the anesthesiologist came in and like then went back to see all my paperwork with Olivia and dug deep. And so it was funny. He came back and he like resolved it and then put my anxiety at ease with Henry, because he comes back and he was like, okay, I was able to see that the medicine that we put in your spinal post-surgery, the pain meds from when you get up to your room, Dilaudid, there was a shortage on March 31st of 2017. Just that one day they didn't have it, and that's when I had Olivia. And so I came out of surgery and was transferred to my room, and the nurse wasn't told that I didn't have Dilaudid. So as my spinal wore off, I was in full-fledged pain.
Oh.
But the nurse was like, I can't give you anything else, like, because she knew the protocol. She knew what her job was, to get me settled into my room, and like I should have already had this.
Why didn't anyone tell her this?
No one told her that. And so the anesthesiologist was able to come back and be like, this is why you had that experience last time, because I was screaming bloody murder as they tried to move me from bed to bed into my room with Olivia. Gosh. And so I had trauma, and I was not excited to do it again with Henry. But then like with having my brides there, and then, them partnering with the other people to ensure that my experience was different with him. Yeah. It was such a gift.
Heck yes.
It was fabulous.
Is terrible. I'm so sorry.
No,
how does that happen? I don't know. One day, like,
I know the one day they had a shortage of Dilaudid. Yep. I was pretty hell bent on having a natural childbirth with Liv, which is funny. I would say that probably people that know me well wouldn't say that would be the case, but I had read all the anime books. Mm-hmm. I was fully prepared. And at 38 weeks, she turned breech. And so
she literally rotated.
Oh yeah. While I was driving down the highway, I remember it. And so,
oh my gosh,
I remembered it in post, like, but then I didn't think anything of it, but I just remember like kind of coming off my chair as 385 turned into like 40, and I was driving home. Well, and so then I was like, okay, this is just how you feel at this point in pregnancy. But then when I went to my very last like appointment, he was like, I don't know. And then we had to do an ultrasound, and sure enough, she had turned. And then he was like, you can do an inversion, but we opted not to. It was like, I was like, so I really had to mourn the natural birth. But I was like, I just felt like after praying over a few days, I was like, I don't want to do the inversion. I just want to trust that this is like somehow, this is just the Lord's protection over something. Yep. And that's what I did. So and then from there, I was like, afraid to choose the other, because I was like, well, if I go through this full birth process, I think people that do brave like a VBAC, I think it's incredible. Yeah. Because I was like, I'm just going to go the way I know, even though that was a terrible experience. I was like, I didn't even want to do a VBAC even still, because I was like, I feel like I know what to
understand. Expect. Childbirth is terrifying. It really is. You can't, like, when you're about to go through, you can't really think about it like that.
And everyone's story is different. So it's like, you can never say that, like, this is going to be my story.
Oh, exactly.
You can hope all you want. But after 3 kids, I've learned that they're all different. Mm-hmm. They're all going to come different, and it's all going to feel different. So
yeah. But oh my gosh. But okay, we need to do another episode obviously one day.
I could talk forever. Sorry.
I know. No, don't be sorry. I would love to hear about your trying to get pregnant with Liv and your pregnancies and deliveries and everything. But for now, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
You're so inspirational. You are embracing like what happened to you, and I think you being you, like, you're a hit in Memphis, especially in the wedding industry, obviously, but other people who are going through this, like them listening to you talk about it, is going to be huge. I think that's what it's all about with everything that people are going through, talking about it and like sharing it.
Well, I think in just stepping into the trials and, just saying like, okay, where can I find the beauty in this? Yes. So, but there were definitely the struggles and the hard moments. But I think at the end of the day, we have a choice and it's like, okay, this can be a really beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. So, and since then I've had, brides and who have I had a bride that's daughter was diagnosed with hearing loss, and she was just struggling with that. And I reached out to her via social media, and I was like, hey, most people don't know this, because it was before I publicized. I was like, I have hearing aids, and like, you know, and I was just able to kind of talk through with that with her.
Yeah.
And so it just has brought much more gifts than it has, you know, struggles or hardships. So I think that when you are facing those things, it's like, oh gosh, how do I step into that? And how do I just say like, okay, Lord, like, show me, you know, what you have for me here. Yeah. But I think that has been a blessing for me, and, or like learning that through this journey of like, okay, this seems like it was really hard at first, but it very quickly it could be used for, you know, my good. And then, you know, for his glory. So,
yeah. And that is the most perfect way to look at it, because you can look at it and so negatively and let it put you down and let it bring you down and let it take over your life. It's not going to
change anything, though.
Exactly.
I still can't hear.
Yeah, there you go. So
being angry and deaf is not a good look for me.
No, it's not. Oh, my Lord. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day. I loved it. I really appreciate it, and I hope to have you back on.
Thank you so much.
And you gotta hug the ones who bring us joy and love. It's the middle with the moms and it's your day. I said, now this one's for the brothers. You gotta love the mothers. And you gotta hug the ones who bring us joy and love. It's the middle with the moms and it's your day.